Hello and welcome to the BuiltOnAir podcast. BuiltOnAir is a regular podcast where we talk with everyday people and learn about the amazing things they are doing with Airtable. Today's podcast is sponsored by OpenSide, the leading solutions provider for Airtable customers. Check out openside.com to learn more about their products and services that can take your Airtable usage to the next level. Use promo code BuiltOnAir to receive $20 towards any product purchase.
Our guest on the podcast today is Cherry Yang, automation pro and developer. Cherry started using Airtable a couple of years ago while working in an operations role and quickly saw its potential. She and a couple of colleagues put together their first base, a product information database, and before long the entire company was using it. Ever since then, Cherry says she feels like she's told every single person in her life about Airtable, including her mom. For the record, this is something I can totally relate to. Today, she's an Airtable consultant working on projects on her own as well as with Gap Consulting. The project Cherry shares with us today is an event planning base she created for a music festival in Portland, Oregon. With Airtable, she is able to track stages, event times, and volunteer work. This base is complete with all the bells and whistles, including an email function to send volunteers detailed information about where they need to be and when. Cherry also shares with us a serendipitous story about how she came to start working on this project, and it's worth the listen. Check out the show notes to learn more about Cherry and her Airtable consulting.
This is kind of a more simplified version because there is a lot of personal data in our actual base, so I made a duplicate of it. And I'll go through this. So we basically split it up into personnel, organizations, and performances. So the first one is personnel. Basically, you have all your volunteers in here, and there's different views for volunteers. So there's festival volunteers who are going to be helping out with the actual festival in August, and then nonprofit outreach volunteers. So these are volunteers who are coordinating with partners, who are trying to look for sponsorships, being in contact with vendors. You also have your performers in here. So there's a list of performers that are committed or interested, or you're talking to right now that you need to follow up with.
That's super cool. I love how you've done the views, how you've broken them up into groups like that. That's very cool.
It's easier to see just because if you have everything all together, it's hard to find structure in the chaos.
I agree. Absolutely.
Yeah. So with your volunteers view, this is, obviously a filtered view. And then same with performers, very similar. Performers are a little bit different because they're organized by stage. So some of them are interested, confirmed, paid, passed. So they weren't interested. And then similarly with your donors, committed, donation received. And you also have your list of donors that need to be followed up with. So if they haven't given you a check or if they haven't deposited the amount. Again, all of this it's not personal data, so totally fine with showing this. Lots of numbers are made up, but essentially that's what their base looks like.
Right.
Yeah. And then coming over here to organizations. So we're in the partner view right now, but there's a few different ones. So we've got partners and sponsors. So partners could be the various charities that this festival is partnering with and bringing volunteers to. And then sponsors would be local businesses or, even larger businesses like Nike has a big presence in Portland. It could potentially be sponsors that belong to. And then the last one here is our festival calendar. So it's going to be, I think it's actually going to be August 22nd to the 24th, or is it 23rd to 25th? I can't remember, but it's August of this year, towards the end of August. And of course, this information are just placeholders. So we've got our performers on this list here, and these would be all the confirmed performers, and the stage that they're allocated to, there's going to be 3 stages. So this would be a drop down menu, really easy to fill. And this is the one part that I really love. Even with myself, sometimes when you're entering data into Excel, you're going to make mistakes. And in Excel, it's not as easy to build that data validation. Like it's kind of finicky and it's not as easy to like add things, especially if you're not super comfortable in Excel. So this is just like you set it up once and then you add to it and you select it. So there's very little chance of getting errors. I'm not saying it's impossible, but generally a lot cleaner and a lot more consistent data. So of course you've got your performance linked to our personnel table, the emails linked, and we've got the start time and time which feed it into this calendar view. Load. Okay. And then in the calendar view, of course, you can break things if you want them to have a longer show. And of course, who doesn't want to hear me sing for like 2 hours?
Are you?
No, I'm not. I just added myself in there as a test.
Nice.
I'll spare everybody from from my talents. So you can adjust that and move that around there. So it's really easy for someone to organize. Whereas I think, again, if you're tracking this in Google Sheets or Excel, it's a little bit more difficult because you'd be editing a start time and end time. And the nice thing here is in this grid view, we've also got confirmed. So once the artist has confirmed their performance and everything is good there with their agency and our festival planner, then they're going to check off this one, which triggers an email to get sent to this person saying, hey, you've confirmed and we're looking forward to seeing you on this date, this time on this stage. So
awesome.
That's the email confirmation view here. Basically, everybody who gets on this view gets an automated email.
So Zapier is looking at this view?
Yeah, Zapier is looking at this view and sending emails to anyone that's confirmed.
Super cool. Well, you definitely have laid this out beautifully, and especially the calendar. I think that looks great.
Yeah, I love the Airtable calendar view just because it's just so easy to adjust different things. You don't have to manually type anything in. Of course, there's room for error from that perspective. And then also you get to color code your stages, which is awesome. So you can very easily tell who's on stage 1 and who's on stage 2.
Yeah, I love the single select, the color coding is super slick.
Thank you.
Of course. And being able to drag it around too. I always want to find a use case where I can use that just because it's fun. But
yeah, I know. Yeah, and it's great.
Oh, that's great. So do you have any future plans for like fleshing this out or adding any bells and whistles?
Yeah, so there are some other things that I've been meaning to add. So definitely the volunteer and partner surveys are part of it. So when you're bringing on new volunteers, getting them to fill in these various fields, for example, what are they interested in? That would be what's their occupation, description of their occupation, if they want to give more information. But very important is this interest section. So there's a lot of different things that they can get involved in. And instead of someone, filling it out on paper or putting it into a Google Sheet and we have to migrate the data, definitely building in a survey directly into Airtable with feedback and make sure just all the data that's coming in is perfect. That's definitely helpful. So forms are something that I'm looking to incorporate, and then also more email integrations with the different stages. So as we get closer to the festival, you're going to be letting your festival volunteers where they need to be going. So if you've allocated, we don't have the column in here. We don't have the column in here yet, but for anyone who's the festival volunteer, they're going to be allocated to stages, maybe to a concession stand, or as a floater, or as an usher, or as like parking, crowd control, everything, right? So they need to be able to know what their role is on each day of the festival and where they need to be at what time. So instead of sending that out in a mass email or multiple emails where people can read the wrong thing, like, oh, I just misread that and I went to the wrong place, you can definitely send it to individuals and just tell them, this is what you're doing on this day, what time, and who do you go find first thing in the morning.
Right. That's great. So you'll put in like exactly all the volunteer positions and where they need to go and who their like point of contact is.
Yeah. And because the festival is in August, like it's so a little bit further away. So we have time to build this out.
That's good. Yeah. And it always creeps up so quickly on you.
Yeah, for sure.
But it looks like you've got a good base in place. No pun intended. For for getting this planned efficiently.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, nice job. It looks beautiful.
Thank you.
Of course. So do you have anything else in the pipeline or anything you're excited about working on?
I'm really excited about working on. I think continue to find more clients. They're always really, really interesting in terms of the work and projects they're trying to take on. So I would have never thought I would be working with a music festival. If you asked me like in the beginning of last year, like I had never even gone to a music festival until last August. So this is brand new to me and it's such an exciting scene. So definitely super, super, serendipitous in terms of the clients that I'm working with, and they've all just been such amazing people. So I'm very, very fortunate to have like gotten this opportunity, and that's probably what I'm looking forward to the most.
I agree. Absolutely. I think that's the coolest part about it is learning about something you never would have been exposed to before.
Yeah, exactly. And I think treating all of their data with care is also really important, like the integrity of the data. Like for, you do consulting as well, like for consultants, it doesn't necessarily matter if, Gabriel is a real estate agent and wants to volunteer for the festival or not. Like this doesn't impact me personally, but I understand it's like really, really important for the clients. So then during all the data migrations, it's like you have to be super, super careful because it's really easy to just like have one row get mixed up and then everybody is going to have the wrong occupation or the wrong interests. So like that data integrity piece is really, really important.
Absolutely. It is. Definitely. But you have earned their trust.
Fortunately, yes.
Absolutely. And I can see why. You did a great job with this space. It looks beautiful. So how did you come to stumble across this project opportunity?
Yeah, a great question. It was a really, really funny story. So I had a couple groups of friends who were planning a trip to Portland, and the group that I was going with, they decided to change plans last minute and go to Seattle instead. So really, really wanted to go to Portland, and literally the morning of, I messaged the other group of friends that were going and I just asked them, like, are you guys still going? They were like, yeah. Just come with us. So I started packing and left that evening, which is super, super rushed. So we drove down to Portland, and I think this was one of our last days in the city. There were 8 of us, and this big group was like loitering in front of this building that had a really lovely sign up on up on the front. So it's like a commercial building in the middle of downtown or close to downtown. And we were taking pictures with the sign, and a man comes out of the building. He's like, "Oh, what are you guys doing?" And we told him we are tourists and we just like the sign in front of your building, and we were just taking some pictures with it. And he's like, "Okay, come on in. I'll give you a tour of the house." So he gave us a tour of his house, which is crazy. And it just had like the most beautiful library. I have to show you this. So he had the most beautiful library.
Oh my goodness.
It's incredible, and it's such a beautiful home. So we had a really nice time touring his, we really enjoyed his tour of the house, and we kind of got curious in the middle and asked him, like, what do you do? Like, this is not a typical home, right? Like, this is the front of it.
Oh my goodness.
He said he was part of a band called Pink Martini, and like, I've known one or two songs from them before, and they're like, oh yeah, they're a pretty nice band, but it's like you would never think you're going to run into someone in such a random way.
Yeah.
And at the end, as we were leaving his house, he told us to come back that evening because he's hosting a party. And the party that he was hosting was the launch party for this music festival. So there were like 200-300 people in the place. So everything in here was like completely filled with people. And everyone we met was super kind and very, very open. So after I got back, I just didn't really think anything of it. You know, it's like in Portland, you have to volunteer in Portland to go to the festival. But they ended up emailing everybody that was at Thomas's house that night. And they said, okay, fill in the survey. And it was literally questions in an email.
Yeah.
Or just answer these questions and respond to the email. And I was like, no, guys, we can do this in a different way and let me help you. So that's how we came to build this Vortex 2020 database. So it's super, super serendipitous. And I think it's one of the most random things that happened to me in 2019.
That is
like, I was not even going to go on this trip.
Oh my goodness. I'm so glad you told that story. That is,
yeah.
Serendipitous is the best word I could think of for that as well.
Exactly.
Oh my goodness. So it's all about where you are and who you know, I guess. That is
of course, or who you happen to stumble into.
Exactly. Oh my goodness. Well, that's amazing. And I love that story. That's great.
Thank you.
Oh my gosh. And yeah, and it also shows, I mean, you shouldn't hesitate to show somebody a good idea, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. Now, if my mom could just use my vacation planning Airtable, that would be great. And just contribute to it instead of texting me a list. Right there, you can enter it in.
Right? Oh my goodness. That's awesome. Well,
thank you.
That really is a great story. I'm sure one you won't forget very soon. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Well, thank you so much for sharing that with us and for speaking with me today and sharing your database. It looks great. That's awesome.
Thank you. Thank you for taking the time.
Of course, you're so welcome. And where can our listeners go to learn more about you?
You can head to airopsconsulting.org.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And we will put the link to that in the show notes.
Wonderful.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Cherry. It's been a pleasure.